your bedpan.
We're telling jokes that kill. Don't forget to bring your pills. Took the lawyer several months just to write.
The old Tate Mansion. Yeah, we went down to Los Angeles, the three of us, with the intention of bringing our tape around. What's the word I'm looking for? Demo. Around to various people in the music industry who we had connections with through MONDO 2000, and to see if anybody was interested in having us record an album, signing us. And we had created this little fold-over visual pamphlet that said, "You may have already won," and had someone pointing a gun at whomever was receiving it, and it was a disrespectful towards the music industry sort of little playful thing that tried to explain that we were virtual and that we resented the existence of rules, but and we didn't believe it was correct for us to record music, but we wanted to do it anyway for that reason. So we had that, and we got into LA, and we met with a couple of people at some major agents there who showed a vague interest. And we hooked up with a high-powered lawyer, Kara Burns. She was part of, I think, Burns, Minot, and Phillips, and they represented, God knows, Michael Jackson, and super top of the heap. Representation, and nobody but top of the heap representation, but because this woman was friends with somebody who had come down to Los Angeles with us, Yvonne, she agreed to take us on, which probably was a mistake for us because it probably just led to concern and complications with Reznor's little mini label when they were suddenly faced with a serious representation on our end. But I'm jumping ahead a little bit. So anyway, there's a woman named Casey Cannon, not to be confused with Christy Canyon, who is also an LA friend. And Casey Cannon was a person who edited most of those little 1 to 2 minute teasers that you would see for upcoming films when you went to the movie theater. To see a film. I don't even know if they still show those anymore. I haven't been into a theater in that long. But that was her thing. She did most of those. Her husband, Van Ling, was the main person working with James Cameron, bringing new technology to his attention at every turn. So he was engaged, and they were engaged at that level. And anyway, when we called Casey Cannon on the phone, she said that she explained that Trent Reznor had moved into the house, the old Tate Mansion, where Sharon Tate had been killed by the Manson girls. For some reason, the song "California Girls" always pops into my head whenever I mention them. So, and she said that he was having a housewarming party that very night. And we were staying with Timothy Leary, so that was a pretty good calling card to introduce ourselves to any celebrities. Although Reznor was aware of MONDO 2000 and had been featured in it, and knew who I was and so forth. But anyway, we called. Pighead answered. Pighead, who had been in ministry, I think, and Christopherson, something like that. Anyway, great industrial music figure. He answered, and he invited us to the party. So with Timothy Leary and all the MONDO Vanillians in tow, first Tim offered everybody some ecstasy, and Sim 1 took it, and Yvonne took it, and Scrappy and I refused. But then I snuck a half a hit just to get a light buzz. I guess I was too embarrassed to say, "I'll just take a half." So it was easier to refuse and then take the half. In any case, off we went. On the way to the party, somebody driving I think it was a Corvette, some expensive sports car was behind us. I think with Tim, I think we were driving an SUV actually, almost like a truck-sized car with Tim's car. And the person behind us kept on trying to get in front of us, kept on beeping the horn and waving his hand wildly. And somehow, I guess he eventually got in front of us and jumped out. And it was Gibby Haynes of the Butthole Surfers. And he screamed at us, "Do you know the way?" And he didn't have to say what the way was. It was, we knew it was about going to Reznor's party. And then we got in front of him and we led the gang to Reznor's party. Yeah, we arrived and there were two places there. There was a large, almost like a garage, or it was like almost sort of like a warehouse space. And there were people standing around outside and there was loud music coming from inside. And that seemed to be where the party was happening. And then there was a smaller house where nothing seemed to be going on. So we went into the party. Scrappy Duchamp has a great description in his discussion of this about the pond that we saw on the way into the
scummy pond.
Scummy pond that hadn't been cleaned in years. Great with that kind of observation, actually. I didn't notice that at all. So anyway, we went into the party and it was kind of, there was a lot of probably guys in their 30s drinking beer and cute girls probably in their late teens and early 20s hanging out, kind of looking around. I think, sadly, noticing that there weren't any rock stars there. So we kind of found our way to a place where we could sit down, and it was pretty dull. It was like gloomy krautrock rock and people drinking beer out of a kegger kind of situation.
Yeah.
So what happened was, I think Yvonne, the person who had come with us, who had many claims to fame, among them being that she babysat for Keith Richards and Anita Pallenberg. That's a pretty great claim to fame. But she had her video camera with her, and she grabbed her video camera. We decided to go outside. She suggested we creepy crawly around the grounds, because a reference to what the Manson girls did in the bushes at that infamous location. So we headed out there. On the way out there, there was Trent Reznor standing with, oh God, what's his name? The lead singer for the Chili Peppers, Red Hot Chili Peppers. I can't think of his name. Anyway, people will know who I mean. So, and he said hi, and then Mr. Lead Singer said, "Your name is Are You Serious?" I, of course, knew what his name was, but I said, "Yeah, who are you?" Anthony Kiedis. And he shrank down to normal size and said, "Oh, my name's Anthony," and we shook hands. So we wandered around a little bit, and then we started walking down to the other building, the small house.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a sign on the door that said, "Come in here if you want to be killed." And we could hear sound from inside, and we opened the door and went in, and there was a sort of smaller, more exclusive party going on in there with Trent Reznor and Kiedis and Butthole Surfer Gibby and a lot of really perfect-looking Los Angeles groupie types. And not a lot of rock stars. That was it, I think. There were like music industry people, I think, in there. So we went in, and when people heard that I was from MONDO 2000, they wanted to talk about virtual reality. They wanted to learn more about virtual reality. And I was kind of tripping out on how the person I was as a kind of street person freak in a small town, how that person would have felt about being in the Sharon Tate house with Timothy Leary.
Yeah.
It's kind of I was flashing back to who I was, the nobody, so-called nobody, who I was. And freaking out on that, and people were wanting me to tell them about virtual reality. And it was like too much like every other party. I'd been to. You know, it wasn't like here's the crazy Trent Reznor party
Yeah.
at the Tate House. It was people standing around talking and not really getting into much very interesting. At some point, I guess we must have hung out for a while. At some point, Reznor walked past me with a plastic bag full of psilocybin mushrooms
Okay.
and a girl, and smiled and winked and waved his baggie in the air and went into a bedroom. That's pretty much what I remember. Sim 1 had fashioned herself into a character she called the cyber piss goddess of annihilating feces,
Oh yeah.
which turned into a song for the eventual IOU Babe album. So on the way out of the house, she decided to take a magical piss right on the edge of the property to cleanse it of the bad Charlie Manson karma.
Yeah. To undo the Manson curse.
Yeah, cleanse it. I mean, I think Trent was after the Manson curse. I mean, he made the downward spiral with songs like March of the Piggies and all that.
Yeah.
So he was looking to that, if at least in some sense, for inspiration. And what the fuck, man? It was the '90s. It was crazier than now in a lot of ways. I mean, it was loose crazy instead of anxious crazy. So anyway, yeah, he did that. And what happened was we went back to Tim's house. What's his name? Gibby Haynes came roaring in about half an hour later, and I think he was drunk and on acid, and he came flying into the room. He was like running, and he ran up to Timothy Leary, and in that kind of southern Austin, Texas accent, I asked Tim, whatever happened to that good acid that you guys used to take back in the 1960s? And Tim said, LSD is LSD. It's just that they make the doses smaller now. And then he said, yeah, but whatever happened to those great times when people used to hijack planes? And Tim was offended by that. And he said, I don't think it's a good idea to hijack planes. And then Gibby I don't think Gibby really responded. I think he maybe he was on crack or something. He just went running around the house for a few minutes and went running back out the door again. And they ended up being friends, actually, although there were stories about him pissing in one of Tim's closets or something like that.
Oh man.
At some point. A story told by Al Jorgensen. Not sure how reliable that would be. There's a period where Jorgensen stayed with Tim where apparently the wheels really came off. Tim actually ended up calling Henry Rollins, asking him to come and get Gibby before he overdoses and dies in Tim's house. And Henry Rollins, of course, being an anti-drug guy, always has enjoyed telling the story about the time Leary called and asked Henry to help him out. I don't remember if there was a result of that. If he did help him out, I think he did. I think he did maybe go in and extract Gibby from the Leary house. Anyway, what happened was that night after the Reznor party, or after we left the Reznor party, the next morning we went back and we left our promotional kit and our cassette in Reznor's mailbox. And apparently Reznor picked it up, or somebody picked it up right away. And we got a call, maybe it was by the late afternoon or early evening, that he really liked what we presented. Of course, he was still coming down from magic mushrooms, so I'm sure that helped our case. And would we like to, he was starting a new record label called Nothing, and would we like to be part of it? And so, yeah, right, yeah. So off we went to meet with him again. And let's see, this was in the evening. And it might have been the same night, or it might have been the night after. And it was just us and Tim and Reznor. He was there alone, as I remember, or at least he was the only person out and about. And he very proudly showed us a Mellotron that I think he said John Lennon had owned or John Lennon had played. And we kind of chatted, and that was the end of that. We were going to get a recording contract with Nothing Records.
Nice.
And of course, there's much more to that story.